Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode on My Line Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone, and I have a fun guest with us today. I have my friend, Jim Carter, and we met while together in March. We were in California together. We're both in Chris and Lori Harder's mastermind. I believe you've been in their world for years and years. This is my first entry point to it. And I have to say, lots of people have asked me, how's your mastermind and are you enjoying it? And what sort of things are you learning? And I've been saying the same thing from day one. I signed up to this mastermind to meet new people, to expand my network, to broaden who I know. And I really went in with that trust. And when I went down there in March and met people like yourself, I thought, this is a good decision. I'm in the right room to meet incredible, heart-centered, big visionary, incredible entrepreneurs. So I can't wait for everybody to meet you, Jim. Why don't you tell us, to kick us off, where are you calling in from and what are you grateful for today?
Thanks, Nicole. I'm calling in from Los Angeles. Happy summer to everybody like me in LA who loves to enjoy the 1.5 seasons that we get every single calendar year.
Yeah.
And just grateful to be connected with you. I loved when we got to know each other. I got to learn a little bit more about your business. Yeah, year one for you. This is actually year 5 for me in this mastermind. So I've been through quite the ups and downs, which is why I think this makes for a great chat. And very poignantly, I'm grateful that in about a week, I'm about to hit a flight with my family that we're all going to Europe for 3 weeks, and we're getting to disconnect, taking the kids international for the first time. We're doing a little Mediterranean cruise, then we're popping over to France to take them to Disney Paris while we're over there to take full advantage of it. So
So good.
the real gratitude there is the fact that it took me until I was about 23 to actually get to Europe for the first time. So just grateful that I am in a position in life that I can introduce my kids to show them just how big the world is at 12 and 14, and see what that'll do for them. So I'm looking forward to that.
I love that so much. I just went to Europe for the first time a couple of years ago for our honeymoon, and it was amazing.
It
Absolutely
is.
amazing.
I know. Haven't been there since before I was married, so it's been quite a while. It's gonna be very different in my 40s versus my 20s. I'm looking
Absolutely,
forward to that.
totally. Okay, so Jim, when I think about, what I know about you, what I know about your business, I see you as being the go-to expert on anything, everything AI. I love these cool prompts and questions that you pop into our group chats. And, I think that this is a really important conversation to be having right now. Like just this day and age, AI is really, really important, especially for the majority of our listeners who are business owners. And I know my perspective of people that I work with, I see two very different sides of the pendulum. People who are like funneling everything through ChatGPT, it's writing everything for them. They're not even like using their thinking brain anymore. To people who feel like, I don't want to implement any of that. It feels really disconnected and robotic and it doesn't sound like me. And so I'm super excited to have this conversation. But the first thing that I'm curious about is, were you always interested in, let's just say, tech, computers, AI from high school? Like, did you know that this was going to be your path?
I did, but I never could have imagined in my teens what I would be doing in my 40s, is really the honest answer. When I first got a computer as a kid, I think I was about 14, probably my oldest daughter's age now. And my parents saved and saved and saved. We, grew up very, very middle class. And we brought home an Apple IIe computer. And I was just like, what is this magical box that, my parents are putting into the office? And I wasn't obsessed over it. I was like enamored. I was trying to make sense of like, okay, well, what does this do? And how do we use it? And the perspective I think that I really want to share here is, at the time, you relied on the software that you had in front of you to be able to do not anything, but everything, right? If it didn't exist in physical form and you could plug it into your computer, it didn't exist on your computer, right? That's how we loaded software in.
Right.
And the perspective here is, my dad brought home a DOS for Dummies book. Remember the Dummies series? We had a whole bookshelf full of the dummy ones. It was kind of fun to be a proud owner of the Dummies series books, right? And he brought home this, how to program, and he got frustrated and he gave it to me. I ended up reading the whole thing and I started writing programs. And my dad was like, oh, okay, so this is what Jimmy's gonna do, right? And I started to fall in love with realizing that I could create. I'm not like not like your traditional like handyman,
Mm.
super flexible, like with tangible, like with my hands. That way I can hold my own and take care of my home. But when it came with like building on software, there was something about it. So I always had this passion. And then when I discovered that I could actually create all brand new in a different, new, unique way, my parents saw that as such a unique new way and an advantage. So they supported me through all these things. I started my first business right out of high school, building websites. I'd take a call and sell somebody on, building an e-commerce shopping cart in 1999, and then I'd hang up and then I'd go figure out how to do it. Just life, as
Wow.
an entrepreneur. What I like to say is I've been in AI since before it was cool.
Mm.
About a decade and a half ago, one of my startups, I was up in the Bay Area, and I was investing in machine learning and Python coders and data scientists and big data and all these hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of this investment that I would put all this capex into now is replaced by a $20 a month ChatGPT subscription. So the thought of, I don't want to say how quick everything can change because that was a substantial amount of time.
Hmm.
But when we zoom back a little bit and realize that ChatGPT, as one of many things, has only been around for not even 2.5 years, it's like, wow. Really, like can we all just take a minute and let that sink in? Because what the hell is the next 2.5 years going to look like at this point? So
Right.
that's been sort of my path, the way that I've come up with it. I've always had this affinity for tech, but now more than ever, it's just more exciting. We're punching through status quo at left and right every single day. I have no idea what AI is going to look like when I get back from my trip, and that's a little terrifying, but it's also really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be both ways, right? It really does depend on your perspective and your viewpoint of like this can be scary or this can be the way the world is going, and it's exciting that you do have a vantage point. You do know how to use this technology better than most, right? And I think that that's a great place to start. Where do you see business owners, entrepreneurs not using a platform like ChatGPT or, there's other Claude AI, those sorts of things, not using it to its advantage? Like they could be using it so much more effectively. Where do you see that that is happening? And what could you offer to everybody who's listening of how they could actually make those sort of systems work better for them or with them?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. And the challenge with answering that in a very like binary, like here's my answer way is because of what we just talked about, how this all evolves so quick. I could be using ChatGPT to its full extent today, every feature, every product, whatever. And then Sam Altman's going to tweet that now they just launched a new thing. And then you have to go back and you have to learn how to do it. The best part about that question is that if somebody feels that way, they're exactly right where they need to be.
Mm.
This tech is evolving so fast. People ask me about, hey, do you recommend this tool or whatever? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have time to review all of them. I review a lot of them. I use a lot of them, but I learn just as quick as I teach. And I think that's like, I don't always default to like have some grace, but like in the AI space, like you got to give yourself some grace. If you're doing at this point anything, you're already in a fraction of a percent of everybody who's doing anything with this that puts you ahead. And
Right.
that's the beautiful thing about we're so early. We're so early of everybody just experimenting and trying that if you're doing anything in this space, I think you are ahead. I really do. And I'm not just saying that
That's
for lip
affirming.
service. Like it really is an affirmation because if you don't adopt AI, you will be outpaced by those that do. It's just the way it's working. It's like saying that you don't want to get online. You
Right.
just, well, why not? Why wouldn't you want to? I don't want to use Google to find things. I would rather just have a database in my head of all of the sites that I want to go to. It's not fair. It's actually irresponsible. So if we shift our mindset and we just want to lean into it, a lot of really great things can come from that. But you have to intentionally start to choose that you want to lean into it. So that way you think in more systems,
Mm.
rather than just defaulting back to what we know. Let's actually change our mindset to say, actually, it's okay that I don't know that. Why don't I just go ask and see if AI can help me get to that answer a little bit quicker? That's the right mindset for 2025.
I love that. Yeah, as you said, that affirmation or just that affirming perspective of, if you're using it, you're starting to work with the curve. There's going to be people in positions like yourself that are staying ahead with the curve that obviously know more. I feel like I was avoidant of ChatGPT in the beginning. I'm going to say a year and a half ago. I think I've been using ChatGPT. Well, I interchange between Chat and Claude or Claude. I'm not quite sure how you say it for about the last year. But I know that my limiting belief around using it in the beginning was people are, paying a certain amount of money to be in my program and to be coached by me, to be mentored by me. And if I just ask ChatGPT to write my emails or write my social posts or write my program, then that kind of feels like a cop out. And that was my limiting belief. And then I don't know what shifted along the way because I hadn't met you or anybody like you. And I don't really hear podcasts of people talking about AI. That's not in my perspective or my realm. However, I do know that one day I had an empowering belief shift that it was I'm giving ChatGPT my thoughts, my creativity, my vision. I'm not asking it to make it up from scratch. And I'm asking it to help me expand on it or to elaborate or to simplify it. But at the end of the day, it's helping me with what I already want to deliver. Would you say that that is a common thing that you hear of people fearing to use ChatGPT because they fear that it is a cop out or an easy way out or that it's not requiring them to think anymore? And how dare they charge for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're not alone in that. I mean, AI is a reflection of who we are, and it depends on what we give it to see that reflection come back. There's a big difference between, hey, ChatGPT, I've told you lots of different things. I've shared about my business. Now I want you to be my thinking partner and I want to work through some ideas with you versus write me a blog post about podcasting. It's just they're not even in the same hemisphere, right?
Mhm.
We typically will start on the latter and then realize the former, right? We go to the quick thing like, wow, can it work that quick? Can it do it? Quick example for you. Mike, who is a friend in our mastermind who focuses on YouTube. I love Mike. Shout out to Mike. I was talking to one of my friends in my Slack community the other day, and she was talking about like I'm kind of restarting my passion for YouTube. And of course, I thought of Mike. She was like, the one thing that's getting me held up is thumbnails. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, you're not alone. Like I just recorded a YouTube video that I wanted to get out. And the one thing that I didn't do that I was proud of is make a thumbnail. I started to mess with it. I didn't do it. And she brought up this idea and she's like, Jim, is there an AI for making YouTube thumbnails? Like there has to be a formula for it at this point. I'm like, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. And I was holding an office hours for my Slack community, and one of the guys that was in there, he was like, "Oh, I heard about this one." He put it in. I haven't tried it yet. And this morning, a couple hours before we were doing this recording, I thought about it. I'm like, I should try that. So I went in there, I put in what I want, gave it a prompt, and it made a pretty good thumbnail. I was happy enough with it. And I was doing the free trial. I didn't pay for it. If you pay for it, you can do face swaps to say like, okay, here it is, but now you can put your face on and it looks better. And I was just kind of messing with it and trying it. And I was like, you can select a region and say, change this and do that. And in a matter of 20 minutes of just exploring, trying this new thing, I actually had a YouTube thumbnail that I was proud of. And I realized, hey, I don't have an excuse anymore. There's no excuse anymore. A lot of the reason that I've not been doing YouTube is because I know it's not about recording. You're like me. We can just hit record and we can talk
Totally.
and find yourself, everybody who's listening in this story. The point of this is what's something that you're fundamentally not doing that you want to do, know you need to do, and it's simply because there's just one thing that's holding you back. Or worse, there's a couple things.
Mm.
Ask yourself where you can make that pattern interrupt and you can shift your mindset and you can just start using some of these little micro tools to do things that normally would have been reserved for higher payroll, more contractor expenses, expensive software. All of this is it's going away. It's evaporating in terms of the weight that we have to carry as entrepreneurs. So now, for better or for worse, I have no more excuses. I should be putting out more YouTube content if I want to use this tool. And it's a reminder to myself that it's only going to get better. So all the little nuanced things that I'm just not totally happy with right now, I don't know, give it 3 months, 6 months, and by then it's gonna be great. So we get these opportunities. Like we're so fortunate to be at this time and space right now where all we have to do is care enough that we want to experiment and see what's on the other side of trying it.
I feel like this is divine timing or synchronicity happening because I I put our podcast on YouTube and have for years, and it wasn't growing on YouTube. Like, the same five people were watching it. And actually, the very first thumbnail I made was when we were in California together after meeting Mike. Shout out, yes, to you, Mike, and him talking about thumbnails. And
Right.
I had no clue. I just went into Canva and I searched YouTube thumbnail and try
They
and
got
like,
some fun templates and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
try and work with their templates. But then I did some research with ChatGPT of what is somebody like Jay Shetty doing to have millions of views on YouTube of his podcast. And the response came back thumbnails, and that there's all of this technicality to thumbnails, and that
Oh,
it
yeah.
really is a make or break to your podcast. And I thought, okay, I really need to learn this and understand it. And up until this point, we had a podcast go out today. I've been just tweaking around with templates on Canva, but now in this discussion with you, I'm like, there could be a better, more thorough way, focuses solely on thumbnails that can be supported by an AI tool.
Right. That's
Oh,
exactly it.
it's so good.
And what's interesting is we not even interesting. I think what's factual is we tend to think we go back to that moment of entrepreneurship where it's like I'm the only one that suffers in this. It's the pity party of the century. And then I bring up a random example like this, and it just so happens you're right there with me, right? We
Right.
we all have these same things that we need to do. And I say need in air quotes. We need to have a clear business plan. We
Yeah.
need to have a clear marketing plan. We need to be sending email. We need to be, there's all these things as entrepreneurs, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So, of course, if there's a way to get to that end result quicker that we're happy with, that doesn't take a whole lot of overhead, why wouldn't we? Like, why wouldn't we? Like, really, what's holding us back? And that's an opportunity for us to grow as people. Every
Mm,
time I start to delegate to an AI process, I grow a little bit. It's fascinating because you realize you're like, wow, yeah, I do have a small team and I love them. But now I'm actually able to say, hey, to my EA, can you just oversee this and make sure it gets done well? And then I have a VA who loves to do a lot of the data processing and connecting things and putting it together. And now I can empower both of them with tools so they can just do what they do the best. And
mm,
everybody wins. It's off my plate. I feel good about it. There's ownership, and nobody's doing more than they need to. And I still really will not condone the whole throw everything into AI, copy, paste, publish. That's not what it's made for. What it's made for is to help you get to the end result quicker, get rid
mm,
of a lot of that. So, to what you said originally about there's kind of like there's two layers of how people are thinking about it. There's the defer everything to GPT, copy, paste, publish, and then there's the maybe staying away from it. I'd like to propose that middle ground, which is rather than being opposed to it, for a week, go all in on it and see how far you can get, but then find your own magic in the middle. Because this week is actually 2 years that I've been writing my own AI newsletter. I'm really proud about that. Shout out to me. I'm super, super proud
Shout
to
out to
make it
you.
2 weeks. Never missed a week in
We're going to
two
link that in the
years.
show notes,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
That
of
opt
course.
in, of course we are.
Of course, I would love to help. Totally free, totally open. In the beginning, it was all like it was me being journalistic and everything. That lasted like 4 months until I was regretting all of my life choices that led up to that point.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I'm the AI guy. I'm the automation guy. If I can't figure it out, what am I doing? And
Mm,
it's to the point now where I've come up with these creative ways to do that research for me, to pull that information, to present it to me. So I can just get to 80% quick, and then I can put that last 20% and shine and make it me. And now
mm,
I enjoy the process again. I likely would have given up on that had I not implemented AI. I probably would have because we're all busy. Life comes
yeah.
at you in lots of different ways. So it's also a look ahead forcing function. It's almost think about AI as like an insurance policy for the work that you still need to do. I love thinking really creatively in ways that we can kind of reshift the chemistry in our head to want to do some of these things to just give us a little bit of a helping hand.
Okay, what you just said unlocked something really big. I think that's going to be important for a lot of listeners, even just in that last piece of shifting the chemistry in our head. My work is in subconscious reprogramming, and you're thinking this and it's limiting, and how can we think more empowering? And I'm wondering for people who are listening, if this conversation is unlocking that perhaps the limiting belief here that is so subconscious, it's so deeply ingrained, is that making money takes hard work. or it's got to be hard to be good, or I've got to work harder to be more successful. And I think about back in the day when I used to be a teacher and I'd be pulling like 14, 16-hour days in the classroom. And, the teachers who were there doing it for 20 years, they were like, stop reinventing the wheel. Like, just do the same lesson plan that's passed down to you from the teacher the year before. And at that moment in time, I mean, we're talking 10, 15 years ago, I thought that just showed me that it doesn't have to be hard. But I'm obviously walking around with this subconscious belief of like, it can't be that easy. And I wonder if people, they don't realize it consciously, but that is their resistance to co creating with ChatGPT of, can it be this easy? Or how can I make my life harder? And I would love for everybody to just ponder that of, is that your resistance because you have this true ingrained belief of it can't be this good?
It's a beautiful perspective, and I've never heard it said that way. And I'm really
Mhm.
glad you bring that up. I think it makes for a great conversation topic. I mean, the common phrase that we all use, like too good to be true, right? We've grown up on with that. It's like, hey, you get a text message about, free money. You just got to click this link. You're like, nope, too good to be true. You're like, there's all these things, and we don't see how status quo can be broken and changed so quickly because we've never lived in an age where that's been a thing.
Right.
So, in a world now where there's a new AI tech opportunity that doesn't make sense because we're like, well, how is that possible? It's got to be too good to be true. I put my ears up too, and I'm just like, wait a minute, can it actually do that? And I know we're inundated with, what's coming out and all these other things, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that we've actually all grown up with AI our entire lives. If you like the fact that when you arrive home, your phone starts recommending certain apps for you,
Mm.
that's AI. If you like the fact that now that you've had Netflix for a while and you've said, yep, I like rom-coms, I don't like documentaries, the fact that it gives you the latest one, that's AI. If you like the fact that a head of lettuce doesn't cost $30 because technology progressed enough to give us the tractor. That's
Mm.
technology in motion, and AI is a reflection of technology in motion. Like we can continue to find fact after fact after fact of ways that if we just embrace tech and we allow it to make our life a little easier, it will be easier. But the difference is now we actually are in the driver's seat. Remember my story about being up in the Bay Area and investing hundreds of thousands in salaries and tech and all these things? I can do all that from my phone now,
Mhm.
right? So, yeah, I think doing good business can still be hard, but that's up to you. People are making plenty of money, having a great quality of life, doing objectively easy things online. We get to choose. Where
Yeah,
is our heart? What do we want to do? I still don't think there are shortcuts, but what I know in my heart is that there are quicker, more affordable, and more efficient paths by using AI, but we have to choose it.
absolutely. And it all comes down to a belief system. Do I want to believe this anymore? Do I want to believe that everything has to be hard and complicated?
Yeah,
Do I want to believe that? I would love to move in the direction of, you're a proud dad of two.
I am.
And we have many, many, many listeners. I know more than 70% of our client base are parents. And let's talk about that. Tech, kids, AI, kids, growing up with it. Floor is open. What do you have to say about this?
Teach your kids how to use ChatGPT.
Say more. How?
Just do it. Yeah, no, it's all shifting. Everything is shifting. I'm not saying don't use Google. I use Google every day. I've been in organic SEO, I've been an advisor, I still coach, I know all that stuff. But I use large language models like Perplexity, like ChatGPT, like Claude every single day of my life. And the difference is it's a generational change, right? We grew up in a world where Google was prominent, and there's a difference in the way that information is being commoditized, right? When I was my youngest daughter's age, somehow I convinced my parents to invest in buying an Encyclopedia Britannica. We couldn't afford it. They figured it out. Later in life, I apologized to them. I don't know why, but I was obsessed with that accessibility to information. I realize it now after a lot of reflection. I was like,
Mm,
so mom and dad, you're telling me that if we had this in the house, I could think of a topic and I could go find it and I could learn more of it and we don't have to go to a public library. Like you're getting to know me, right? Like this is the way my brain works.
yes.
But now, excuse me, that was then. Let's fast forward. Google came out. You could ask a question, and we were given these beautiful choices of like, okay, I can pick, I can choose, I can get this information. But there's something about that we never really thought about until now, where we have these answer engines,
Mm.
is the paradox of choice, right? Google has always traditionally given us the top 10 there's nuance there with ads and everything else,
Yeah.
but they've given us the top choices and we get to then pick which one we want. But we still are in the driver's seat of what we want to choose. In a world now where everything is delivered, like DoorDash, where everything is streamed, like Apple TV and Netflix, where your phone presents you the information before you're asking for it,
Mm.
we're changing. We're not getting to a position in life with technology and support where we're giving that much choice anymore. The algorithms are phenomenal. There's a certain amount of listeners here who this podcast was recommended to them. Therefore, they started listening. It's always going to be like this and only better in the future. So why would we want to do the same lesson plan for the next decade? We shouldn't. This is a pivotal change. And I believe that we would be doing a disservice to the next generation by not really understanding that and starting to ingrain the new habits that are going to set them up for success in life. So my kids are 12 and 14. They now use ChatGPT to find information more than they use Google. And that
Mm.
is a change over the last calendar year or so. I taught them how to use Google very early on. Obviously, I'm their dad. But now, if we just need an answer, they know how to go ask for it. And the other, probably the most important piece of this is we're teaching our kids a fundamental skill that will not die, which is how to prompt. Because in a world where AI is going to be prominent in a lot of the things we're doing, it's a new life skill.
Mm.
Learning how to write or speak or invoke a good prompt. So there's a lot of really good upside into this has to be for you and your family, right? This isn't a one size fits all, but don't deprive your child the unfair advantage is really where I come back to.
Okay, I love this. And it's making me think, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. It's making me think about when so I taught grade 7 math for 3 years. And I can recall every year getting asked, Miss McClellan, why do we have to know how to do this mentally? I have a phone. I can just
Yeah.
do it on my calculator on my phone. And my response, maybe this is why I didn't like teaching.
See where this is going.
My response was, "You're right. You are going to be in the grocery store with your phone with the calculator. Like, yes, the thinking partner is there with you, but the government says that the curriculum requires that you learn how to do this mentally." So if we kind of take this analogy and we flip it over into current tech and AI, if the naysayers out there are like, "Oh, but then kids don't have to think anymore." How can you encourage parents, teachers, whomever to think about this differently of no, I know you just said getting them to think with their prompts, but rather than just your child comes home, they've got their homework and they just straight up, who was the president in 1984? Okay, well, just go get the answer, but then maybe they don't remember that on the test. Is there a way to encourage parents or whomever is raising kids to think about here's how you're going to teach them to not just be given the answer, but to think?
It's an important one. And this is why I definitely wanted to put out there that this isn't a one size fits all mindset for everybody. I've seen a lot of different mindsets from don't touch it at all the way to free reign. Watch whatever you want on your iPad, whatever, just leave on the captions so you don't forget how to read. Like
Yeah.
there, I've seen every piece of the spectrum. But what I come back to is common sense, unfortunately, is not common practice, and
Mm.
critical thinking requires thinking critically. Like
Yes.
those two just always stay in my head. So there's a part of me that says, yeah, I absolutely don't want my kids to skip those fundamentals because this is the first generation where that's an opportunity.
Yes.
So we can't screw it up. We just can't screw it up. However, I'm never going to remember who the president was in 1894. So why would I need my daughter to? And
Yeah,
and
it
we
doesn't
have
matter.
to choose what matters the most to us. So in a world, my kids both we're public school family. We love the schools that we have here, and they have a curriculum, and that is what it is. But when was the last time you did long division?
Exactly.
You,
And
you,
this was always
you
my response. Like,
joked.
you are not going to have to know how to do this when you're an adult like myself, but unfortunately, I have to show you this. Yeah,
But
it's like a weird
yeah,
catch.
it totally is. But what I always come back to is that they are principles for success in whatever your vocation and your path is going to be.
Yes.
So my wife and I joke because we met in remedial math in college. I went on to write software to do math for me, and she went on to become a finance major, and she runs an auditing department.
I mean,
And without getting to that crazy backstory, had I not understood the fundamentals of math because I just had AI do it for me, if that was available at the time,
mm,
I don't think my life path would have been the same.
no.
Same for her, right? Regardless of the haha thing that we met in college in remedial math. Shout out to Cal Poly Pomona. But my point here is if it allows you to help make it your own and get to what you need quicker, more effectively, and more confidently, wouldn't we rather have that? Because if we go back to my Britannica example, in my mind, after reflection, I realized the reason that I wanted that at home was accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
I could have still got on my bike and rode to the public library. I could have figured out a bus pass. I could have had them take me and I would have gotten lost in the library for hours and hours at a time. But it was an accessibility, it was a convenience thing. And I was the only kid in my friend group that had that. And guess what? Friends came over and they wanted to be able to do that. It's addictive when we have access to information. And at least speaking as I know I'm a privileged white male in America. It's what I do with it that matters. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because if I can help people realize that access to information is easier, more effective, and truer than ever before, then that opens up a new generation worth of opportunity. And
Mm,
that's the hill I'm willing to down.
I love that. Have you already written a TED Talk?
I haven't.
I applied once a couple of years ago and then I completely self-sabotaged and left it until the last minute. But the whole what you just said is with TED Talk, if you want to get accepted, you have to have a 15-word through line. That is essentially the hill you're willing
The
to
hell
die
you're
on.
willing to die on. I've been
Yeah.
told. Yep.
Yeah. So
I've got a
there's
few of these now, but that one was perfectly timed.
yeah, there's yours. Yeah, I love this so much. It just made me think about I'm an 86 baby. So maybe grade seven, maybe grade eight, all of us, all my friends coming to my house because I had the CD burner. So everybody was
Yeah.
like, let's go to your house and make CDs. And it was just so much fun. And that felt
Three
like,
hours later, we can finally listen to music. Yep.
yeah, felt like such an advancement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so funny to think about, yeah, these privileges and these opportunities and how it can be exciting. Again, it's all your perspective, it's all your belief system around everything that you're sharing. I love everything you just shared about how parents and teachers and guardians can think about helping the next generation think critically and make life a little less hard. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not out here washing my clothes on a washboard like multiple generations back from me
Very
did.
true.
I've got my washing machine. I'm popping it in the washing machine and turning it on and it's good to go. So, I think if we look at this outside of technology, we all want convenience. We all want things to work more effectively and efficiently for us. It's really cutting down any limiting beliefs or stories that people have around it. So, I have two more questions I want to ask. The first one is maybe just like a simple answer. And then the second one is I'd love your perspective on it. But the first one is what do you say to the people who are like, but is AI ruining the environment?
You're going to make me give a simple answer to that one? Man, the short answer, no, when we zoom out. Like anything, if you abuse it, sure. But if we look at like I'm making hand signals here, so I don't whoever's watching versus whoever's listening. But if we're comparing the amount of cooling that it takes to cool a server for your ChatGPT session versus the amount of carbon that's put into the air when we get on a plane, talking there's no there's no
There's no
comparison.
comparison.
There's no comparison. So if we think about it depends on what we want to justify as what is the sustainability of this. The fact is that energy is the main resource and energy is going to be used one way or another. It's already being produced. So the question is just what are we doing with it? But the more that countries evolve with solar, clean opportunities, this is going to be used in new ways. But guess what? We don't have an EV jet yet. So if I'm just using that as one example of many, again, this is where we all have to be informed consumers. And you're not out of left field by asking that question. I get that a lot. And if I see like live streams and people are talking about AI, There's a lot of unfortunate misinformation about it. And this isn't meant to be political, it's just factual. If you go and you look at the real facts about how much energy AI consumes, yeah, it's a lot. But then if you compare it to the rest of what the world uses in the biggest other categories, it's abysmal.
Mm.
So we have to zoom out to understand, okay, it's one of many.
I ask that so that I can selfishly have a response to give to people because I know that a few friends, not many, but a few friends who aren't in the entrepreneurial space, that they're not in the online business space, and they're like, oh my gosh, but isn't ChatGPT like taking tons of water? And I have never actually looked up the answer to this. And my response is always, honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is it's the way the world's going. I don't know what to say. But now I have a actual better answer. So thank you.
In the scope of it, it's not the biggest issue that our country faces. And I'm not saying we should only pay attention to the biggest issues, but I am saying we shouldn't not use something because we believe that it's so harmful to the environment that it's irrecoverable,
Right.
justifiably by the data that is just incorrect. And I don't know which way it's going to trend, but what I do know is that it's a better trend than just pumping more of the worst trends out into our world. And that's the way that I can best answer that.
And that's facts. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
With our last little bit of time, before we wrap up, I do want people to hear about how they can work with you and find you and all of that fun stuff. But, you and I were chatting before we hit record, and I was saying that Kayla and I are gearing up to launch our book this fall. And I'm so grateful for all of the like friendships and connections and advice of people in this mastermind who give little tidbits of this could be easier, or this would be better. I would love to hear from the AI king. What could we do, or what's a cool hack, or what's just one way to infuse AI into the, finalization of our manuscript or in the launch process or marketing? Any fun advice that you could give?
For sure. For anybody who's in the same stage, which is they either are trying to come up with a book concept, they already have one and they're trying to make it the best that they can, or they're in the final stages. It's the simple stuff that AI does really well on. Yes, there's a world where it can do the hard things and the complicated things, but you have the most fun with the simple things. So specifically for you guys, what you could do, and this is what I would recommend for most people, is think about AI. Let's just use ChatGPT as like the king in the ring example. Just use it as a thinking partner, right? The more that you can feed it, the more that it understands about you, the better it's going to get because it will have that memory. It'll start to personalize. A really fun experiment, and this would be really fun for you to do. Assuming, for everybody who's listening, assuming that you've already been using GPT, you've been sharing information, it kind of knows your name, it knows your business. Switch to GPT-4, which is the newest version that has the best image quality in terms of what they just recently released. We're recording this around mid-June 2025. Again, if somebody listens to this in a year, no idea, right? So we'll say
Yeah.
GPT-12, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But as of right now, type this prompt out. Say, create an image of my next best-selling book based off of everything that you know about me, and
Mm.
hit enter. It might bomb horribly because it may not know enough about you. But when I tried that prompt and I keep this image on my desktop, I actually love what it came up with. It
Okay.
gave me a title, it gave me a byline, it made the artwork, it set me on a vision of like, man, maybe I should write this book.
Mm.
So, regardless of what the output is, what I want everybody to realize is that they have this asset waiting for them.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
waiting for it. So the question is, are you just going to like let it sit, or are you going to actually use the asset that you've been pouring into, that you've been building value in? And
Right.
then once you've got this, you can take it a step further and say, what would the first chapter look like? What would be a couple things about this that, I would like to talk about? Oh, and you start to get creative and you put your own beautiful spin into it. What if I wanted to talk about this, this, and this? Can you help me come up with an analogy for it? Can you give me, I can't think of the term right now, jump into teacher mode for me, but what is it when you have like a sentence of words and then you come up with the first letter of each?
Oh, an acronym?
An acronym, thank you. I was like, it's not an analogy, it's not an
Yeah.
anagram. Yeah, an acronym. If I had this process, can you make an acronym for me? Can you rotate through it? And it'll do these things with you. That process gave me some clarity on, man, if I actually want to launch this book, I think I can do it. I know I can do it. So regardless of where you are in the process, think really creatively. because AI
Mhm.
inherently right now is not creative. It's a reflection of what you give it. The more you give it, the better it's going to do to support you in whatever it is that you're doing. And not just for books. You want to get that course launched. You want to update your website with all better marketing language. Do you want to kick off the drafts to a 7-part email sequence and you don't know exactly how to put it all together? Use those assets in that format, and there's only upside
Mhm.
because at $20 a month
Yes.
is no more cost affordable way to be able to have that kind of support in your business.
I love this. I can't wait to go try this out and see what image comes up for us. Because yeah, we're not even there yet. Of what's the book cover going to look like?
And it
Um,
can give you an idea that might spark some kind of a forward direction. And again, if that's something that's holding you up or back, we have to find these opportunities to just leap right into getting back into momentum,
yeah, remove the barriers and the
removing the barriers.
excuses.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Okay, this conversation has been so fun and so valuable. I can't wait for everybody to listen to this. And when you do listen to it, make sure that you go connect with Jim and say hello and tell him something that you heard on this podcast that really resonated with you or allowed you to think differently. Where can people find you, or what do you've got going on, or what's for sale? Like, how can we connect with you beyond here?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's my favorite to hear how people are using AI, their ideas, what's coming up for them. And you know how we keep getting asked, like, can I pick your brain? You know, that kind of thing all the time. I got tired of saying no. So I finally came up with a way to say, yeah, pick my brain 24 hours a day. I made a digital clone of myself, very on brand for my
Of
AI
course you did.
efforts. So when people ask like how to stay connected, I actually just offer access to my digital clone in order to
Mm.
stay connected. So for anybody listening, anybody watching, feel free to check out askjc3.com. Jim
Ask.
Carter III, askjc3.com. You can have a call with me, a chat with me. It sounds like me. It knows everything that I've taught, every newsletter I've written, every AI tool that I've recommended, and it's there to support you. And you can ask it for a link to my Instagram or anything else. It's got all that information. I've trained it on everything that I've taught, and it's free.
That is unbelievable. So, so, so
Yeah,
cool. So
fun
on
times.
brand.
Fun
Yeah.
times.
For those listening and you're driving or doing something else, don't worry. This is all linked in the show notes. Super easy for you to click and get connected. Jim, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your wisdom. I am so grateful to know someone like yourself and feel more at ease, maybe a sigh of relief, a little bit of an exhale of there doesn't have to be any worry wrapped up in this. It can all be really exciting, and it really is all our choice of how we view moving forward in the future with tech and AI and these advancements. And I so appreciate you taking the time to share with us today.
Beautifully put. Loved our conversation. Thank you so much. Glad to be here and happy to keep supporting you as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And we'll be back next week with another episode.